All right, another episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I'm Joseph Pavone alongside Cedric Maxwell. The Boston Celtics, man, they waited less than 48 hours to make a splash in NBA free agency, man, making two deals that I think are going to help this team in a big way, and we'll break it down, of course. And everyone's wondering, where is Kevin Durant headed to? Ooh. He asked for a trade out of Brooklyn, and there's a line full of teams willing to make it happen. But which one is going to be best for the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant, I guess, is the question. And I guess we can pick up on the conversation we had about Kyrie Irving, but it seems like he may be on table, maybe not. Maybe he's part of the future. Mac, I'd love to see what you think about it. But first thing first, man, let's talk about these Celtics. Brad Stevens making these moves already. Adding a two-way player like Malcolm Brogdon, I think, is absolutely significant, Max, especially when you think about the competitive Eastern Conference. And of course, he did this deal without touching any members of his core, right? You know, none of the members of the starting lineup, no one in the rotation. I mean, you did trade Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, Nick Stauskas, Malik Fitz, Juwan Morgan, and the 2023 first round pick. But Max, what was your initial reaction to it? Because obviously everyone was thinking about Marcus Smart and how he would react to it. He reacted to it in a positive way, shouting out Malcolm Brogdon on Twitter, a few hours after the trade was completed. But Max, what was your initial thoughts, and how do you think this makes the Celtics significantly better in the Eastern Conference?
Well, I think you look at their bench right now, it's gotten stronger. I think that what let the Celtics down in the finals was the fact that they couldn't score. They had a hard time scoring. And you bring in the sharpshooter. You think what Gallinari is able to bring to the table, and then you bring Brogdon in, and Brogdon is a shooter / penetrator, ex-rookie of the year. The only problem I've heard, and it's from people in Indiana, is the fact that he does not play as many games as, you would think. He missed way over 50% of the games with injuries.
Max, I've had him on more than one fantasy league. And yeah, man, he will miss some games for you. He'll go off. He'll hit all the statistical categories you need, and he'll give you that sort of balance and average throughout the course of the regular season. But yeah, he'll miss some games, especially sometimes when you least expect it. So that's part of his thing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems you think about him. But the thing that he is, he's a Marcus Smart clone, probably a better shooter from the 3-point line, better free throw shooter. I think he had that 90, 40, whatever that thing is that goes on the NBA when you think about stats. But I think that he's a guy who can give you an upgrade when you think about going to your bench. I think Marcus is still going to be your starter, but I believe that Brogdon's going to be a guy who's going to play significant minutes late in basketball games in critical situations. One of the other things I heard was like, well, he didn't want to defer to anybody when he was in Indiana. Like, okay, who was he going to defer to? And, and was it going to be Sabonis? Was it going to be Miles Turner? Who was he going to defer to? Well, here there's a clear pecking order between Brown and Tatum, and then it goes downhill from that. The other thing which you talk about with Brogdon is the fact that this essentially could be a rental because he only has 1 year left on his deal at about $22 million. So you'll get the chance to put him in your lineup, see how it works out. And if it doesn't, then you can move on to somebody else.
Yeah, I like the way you put that, Max, because I think one thing that everyone was quick to jump to was, who's going to start? Who's going to start? Is he going to take the job from Marcus? How is Marcus going to react to it? Well, wait a minute. What about the lineup to close out games, right? Because that was the one that was giving the Celtics fits during the NBA Finals in particular, right? Like being able to close out games, those close game situations when you need a closing lineup. And I think having a backcourt like Smart and Brogdon will get you a lot of stops. Those guys will be responsible for defending, the best players on the opposing team's backcourt. So I think you get a huge, extra muscle there on the defensive end. And you have a guy who can score as well, so it's a two-way player who, yes, he is on an expiring deal, but at the same time, Max, there's a lot of value there, right? And there's a lot of value in guys like Malcolm Brogdon who have never played on that sort of stage that the Celtics were on, less than a month ago. The NBA Finals. He's ready for that. He already put that up on social media. And again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Max. Like seeing a team like the Celtics come 2 wins short of an NBA title, that's going to inspire guys. And I think Malcolm Brogdon certainly fits that criteria for sure.
Well, you think about your players with the Celtics, their opportunity to win the NBA Finals this year probably hinged on that fourth quarter they had in game number 4 in Boston where they
in Boston. Yeah, that was a crucial loss.
3-1. I mean, late in the basketball game, they take a lead, and then Steph Curry comes back and scores. Somebody else scores, and then they eventually break the Celtics back. But there were so many great opportunities for the Celtics, but you still look at that with Brogdon coming in, with Gallinari coming in. Gallinari has always been a tremendous three-point shooter. Defensively, could be a liability, but with his ability to knock down shots, he's going to stretch the floor. He's going to insulate Brown and Tatum that much more because either one of these corners or on the wings, he's able to knock down the three. Big enough to get to the basket. Great free throw shooter. Will compete, to rebound the basketball at about 6'9". So, the NBA game is perfect for him. So coming into this situation, I like what the Celtics have done.
He's a veteran scorer coming off the bench, man. That's exactly the kind of production this team needed throughout the NBA Finals. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's the way Brad Stevens had to go into this offseason and measuring what was missing from that series. What could this team need? And you talk about a guy who can not only score on his own, but give you double digits on average, throughout the course of the season. I think it's a good signing. I really do. Mid-level exception. You got a 2-year deal. It seemed like it was between Boston and Chicago in terms of the reports that were the two teams that was narrowed down to get him, and he chose Boston. And I can't help but wonder if that had to do with the likelihood of this team getting back to the NBA Finals and what he just saw, a month ago.
Yeah, the question I have to ask right now: does the Celtics still have these $17 million?
They still do. They still do, Max. So that's still for their disposal that they can use.
But they have to use it by a certain time, right?
Right, by the end of the month. So this is the TPE. They already used the mid-level exception on Gallinari. Now this is the TPE that does have an expiration date on it. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I mean, it's easy to point out the bench, and you're looking at secondary, a secondary center after you traded away Daniel Tice. Maybe you're able to address that, in some regard within the next few weeks. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what this team is able to pull off or what Brad Stevens can do.
Well, Brad has done his due diligence with this team and put them in another position to make a run. And I think that's how you look at it. I think in the beginning of last season, the best hope for any Celtic fan was if you got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Oh, my God, that was just, and then you get to the NBA Finals and you lose it. And it's such a disappointment. But the foundation for this team is built the right way. You talked about the thing in the Hamptons, though, which a little surprising to me. You said Jason Tatum and Draymond
Green. Yeah, Max. We were talking about it right before we started recording, man. I'm surprised you're not. Yeah, exactly. See, that's the attitude I expected to hear from you. But before I hit record, you were like, "It is what it is." I'm like, really?
No. When I said that, I was
listen. Hold on. Let me make it clear though. Saying what up, daps and pounds, all that. Hey, man, good to see you, man. All that. I'm not saying, don't do that. But my thing is posing for a picture, saying what up. I don't know, man. It just didn't sit well with me. If I'm a competitor, right? If I'm Tatum, if I'm in that position, if I'm seeing the guy who just beat me a few weeks ago at a party, man, I don't know if I want to pose for a pic. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. That's just me. That's just me.
I mean, that would have been me. And then you hear Draymond Green talking about your running mate. He talked about Jaylen. He said,
"Yeah, right.
I took Jaylen Brown's heart." And I'm like, "Whoa, that's some." I mean, Draymond's words here in the last couple of between that and thinking about Perk being a coon. Some of these words needs to go into his little dictionary. Take some of those things out. But when you win, we
didn't talk about that. Right.
When you win a championship, obviously you get an opportunity to say what the hell you want to say. 4-time champion right now in Draymond Green. And, that team has gotten better too. With Wiseman possibly coming back, with some of the things that happened.
Right. So then Perk, so why is he acting like this is his final championship? Like this is his swan song. Like why is he acting like this is it? Like he may not get back there, because that's the way he's acting, as if he's gonna milk this thing until he can't anymore.
I don't think that they're looking at it that way. I think that they're looking.
No, I'm saying Draymond. The way Draymond's behaving, he's been loud and obnoxious, after winning championships before, but nothing like this. Not even close.
Well, when you win your fourth, you got an opportunity to be a little bit louder, and you know.
I guess that's the one, right? The fourth.
Look, you know what you documented between Draymond and me, which made me tired at the end of the day. I know
what you mean when I documented? Like I'm a director doing a documentary. Get out of here.
Well, wait a minute.
What I reported on, man. What I reported on documented.
Who was there with the
documentary?
Who was there with the camera?
Josue Pavone.
You documented, and how many people saw it on YouTube? Is it coming on about 4 million now?
I haven't checked. I haven't checked in a while, but yeah, somewhere around there.
So no, I mean that those things happen, and but yeah, if I've ever wanted the Celtics to win the championship, so I could put it in somebody's face, I think it was this year. But obviously, you'll be looking at some of the things that are happening right now. And
this episode of the Cedric Maxwell Podcast is brought to you by Indeed. No one has a business like yours with all its strengths and challenges. To succeed, you need a hiring partner that adapts your needs, and you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Find great talent faster through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get qualified candidates whose resume on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. One of the things I love about Indeed is the fact that it makes it so easy for you to hire. It takes less than 10 minutes for most SMB employers to post a job, according to Indeed Data. Indeed does the hard work for you. When you pay to post a job, Instant Match shows candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post, so you can hire faster. With Indeed, you can select for the skills that matter to you the most. Add from a selection of over 100 Indeed assessment tests to your job post and hone in on the candidates with the right skills faster. Indeed has such great talent. In fact, 3 out of 4 of U.S. online job seekers search for jobs on Indeed each month, according to ComSource. Even better, Indeed is the only job site where you can pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring partner, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest in 2019. Start hiring now with the $75 job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Maxwell. Offer is good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit right now at Indeed.com/Maxwell. That's Indeed.com/Maxwell. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And I guess we'll move forward a little bit and think about what's going on right now with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I was going to say, Max, but real quick, before we get on that, though, the one thing I wanted to say, one more thing I wanted to say is that I didn't even think about it like that from Jaylen Brown's perspective, right? Like, Draymond says what he said on this podcast. Like 4 days later, you chilling with this dude? You kicking it with it? You taking pics? You posing for? It's a little, yeah. I don't know. That would have sit well with me. That would have sit well with me. With that being said, going into this conversation about Kevin Durant, for people who even like entertain the idea of Celtics doing something like this, why? Like why? Okay, I'll let you get your 2 cents in, and then I'll get into why I don't think Celtics should go after Kevin Durant. But
let's entertain the idea. He is still right now, arguably one of the top 3 players right now in the NBA, especially, and maybe the number 1 player when you think about getting buckets at his size. Ability to score, really a 7-footer who plays like his moves are like a guy about 6'5". You would question the only thing and I remember doing this, Josue, and it was back in the day when the Celtics had Al Jefferson, and then it was Kevin Garnett's name came up. I was like, Kevin Garnett? Why would we want to get Kevin Garnett when you got a budding star in Al Jefferson? Kevin Garnett played that first game. He changed the culture of this team. I don't think that you could, in the annals, you might be thinking again of Durant changing the culture of this team. If you got him here, would he put you over the top, or would you retard the development of Tatum if you brought him into, because now Tatum would not be the lead dog. So I understand what you're saying, but man, it's just hard for me not to sometimes think about that big seven with the ability to score anytime he wants to take over a basketball game offensively, and just as good defensively. He wasn't bad. There were times when, he blocked a lot of shots this year, rebounded the basketball. So I know that you don't like the fact of even thinking that way.
No, it's not that. All right, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Well, no, I'm not saying like absolutely you cannot trade Jaylen Brown for anybody. No, that's not the thing. I get it. I understand how talented Kevin Durant is. But to your point, right, what Kevin Garnett did to this team was change the culture. I don't think Kevin Durant's that guy. I don't think Kevin Durant changes a culture. He can enhance it like what he did in Golden State, right, what he did with the Warriors, but he wasn't the leader of that team. He was one of the top dogs, but he wasn't the guy that was going to, put people into their own place and, hold people accountable. No, he contributed. He led them to a championship. I don't think they win those without him in a big way for sure. But look what he did in Brooklyn
twice.
I know, Max, he's not somebody. What did he do in Brooklyn that changed the culture? He was supposed to lead that team, not Kyrie Irving or not the two of them. It was supposed to be him. And he had no control. He put his hard hat on. He did his job. I commend him on that. But he's not a leader. He's not someone that's going to enhance everybody's game or hold people accountable.
I ask you this question. What could he have done differently with the Kyrie Irving situation? What could he have said?
One, for starters, not request a trade. Stick with it and try to.
I'm just saying, if you're in a situation where you feel like, okay, I'm done here. I think in the NBA now, that's what people do. I'm done here. And moving on. Now, one thing that we move back to, just going back, I heard another name, which I like, and we'll see if move on.
Number two would be, you know what else too, Matt? Number two would be get Ben Simmons on the floor. All right. You think someone like Kobe Bryant wouldn't be able to get Ben Simmons on the floor? You think a leader like LeBron James wouldn't be able to get someone like Ben Simmons on the floor? Yes, they would, man. They would.
Yeah, Ben Simmons,
it wouldn't shock me if Kevin Durant barely spoke to the kid. That really wouldn't surprise me. Maybe I'm wrong, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Ben Simmons is a completely different animal. And I think now the way the NBA
is an all-star caliber player, though.
The way the NBA is set up now, guys are going to play if they want to play. And you could go down to New Orleans and see what happened down there. Their main dog didn't play for the entire year. They wanted him to play, but he didn't play. Now he signs a $200 million deal. And how do you feel that deal comes around? But moving a little bit backwards.
My fault. You're going to say something, yeah.
Well, moving a little bit backwards is, I've also heard another name that I like possibly coming to the Celtics, and that could be Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder would be
I like that
addition, because Jay Crowder knocks down the three. He's smart and he defends his ass off. Takes charges. He's been here before in a system under. I would love if you could get somebody like that. And I always think about the one thing that happened when I think about Draymond coming over in the huddle. That ain't happening. That ain't happening right now. Jay Crowder's over there.
Oh, no chance.
That ain't happening. Another guy you think about is Morris.
Marcus Morris. Yeah, that's the guy.
If you're able to get him, he's a shooter and he's a no-nonsense guy. That's the one thing you did not have on this team. You did not have that spark of controversy when push came to shove. There is nobody. It still defies logic to me that Draymond Green was able to walk into your huddle beside your superstar, and nobody said a thing.
Yeah, everyone was just like,
yeah. I mean, nobody said anything.
Like, why don't you just grab some popcorn and watch the show while you watch
the referee finally had to get him out of there. That's a player's position.
Yeah.
Somebody should have been.
It's mind games.
Somebody should have been over there. Dude, if you don't get the fuck out of here right now, you don't get out of this huddle. This is our huddle.
No, you were about to take your headset though. You were ready to go over there.
Oh, I'm just saying, I think
like, yo, hold up.
They need to add. Those are other pieces that they need to add into the mix that I think that would help them, especially when you think about just a little bit of toughness, a little bit of toughness.
But see, that's the thing.
A little spice will go with, in Honduras, one of those hot chili spices that y'all have down. we'll go that way. Give me one of those things where I'm ready to go.
You're speaking my language right now, Max. That's what this team's missing. They just need a little spice, need a little extra pepper. That's all. The meal's missing some pepper. They don't need to switch up the course. They don't need to take away a centerpiece or two centerpieces the way these reports are talking about, right? They're talking about potentially trading Jaylen Brown and a Marcus Smart and a Robert Williams. I'm like, wait a minute. That changes everything if you're going to do that. Listen, I've entertained the idea of trading Jaylen in the future first and all that. It's just straight up like that. But if we're talking about trading another piece of that starting lineup, another piece of that defense, especially guys like Robert Williams and Marcus Smart, I'm good. I don't think the Celtics should do that.
I get where you're coming from. I just think that you're looking for magic again. Can Al Horford have the kind of season that he had last year, especially late? Can he have that kind of season of knocking down shots? I like what you're saying. I get where you're going, and this team is a better equipped team with the personnel that Brad has added to the mix.
Put it this way, Max. I think someone like Kevin Durant, I think he needs the Celtics more than the Celtics need him. And that's a good position for the Celtics to be at right now. When you think about everything that's happened, they overachieved in a big way.
It's going to be interesting to see where he lands at, though. Some people talked about Phoenix being the landing place.
I like that one.
Ayton. And you get DeAndre Ayton and somebody else from Phoenix coming over to Brooklyn. I think
imagine DeAndre Ayton and Ben Simmons leading that team. Man, that's quite the difference compared to last year. But you got to start somewhere, right?
And Kyrie's there too.
Kyrie's like, what are we doing here?
Where's Kyrie? Everybody keeps talking about Kyrie's going to be up in LA.
Ain't no market. There's no market for him right now, man. I'm sure the Lakers would love to swing a deal, but no one's trying to take that Russell Westbrook contract. No one's trying to take that right now. Yeah.
It would have to be a three-way team. It wouldn't be it would have to be somebody would have to want Westbrook. But man, I'm telling you what.
What about the Clippers? I wouldn't be shocked if the Clippers sneak in here, but I doubt it.
Clippers don't want. Why would you want Westbrook when you just went out and got John Wall? You can't.
That's right. Never mind. I'm sorry. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You can't put him in that position.
No, I'm thinking of another. Okay, what I'm trying to think of is another Western Conference team that can swoop in here, but not like a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, as they reported. Like another team. Phoenix is definitely in the mix. If I'm Phoenix, I'm doing my best to try to swing a deal there.
Well, Westbrook?
I mean, not Westbrook. Excuse me. For Durant.
Oh, Durant. Yeah, but I'm talking about Westbrook leaving LA. I'm trying to find out what place can take that kind of money and that destination. You look at this board right now. I'm a little surprised that Washington went out there, did that with Bradley Beal, and gave Bradley Beal $250 million.
And man, he wanted to see what team was going to bite, though. A part of me felt like he was going to stay all along. But yeah, look, he got the bag, got his money. But what about a team like the San Antonio Spurs that trade away their centerpiece, or another team like?
I don't like that deal. I don't like that deal for Atlanta. I don't know why, because Trae Young, to me, needs the ball to be effective. Murray,
that's an interesting backcourt. Yeah, I don't know.
He needs the ball to be effective. You got a bigger defender. A guy can do a lot of different things. But Trae, in order for him to be effective, he got to shake and dance and do all that stuff. And that takes away from the offensive scheme of having a guy like Murray, who is a traditional point guard who wants to bring it up, set guys up. His length is about 6'7", helps him out defensively. But I don't know. Some of the deals that I just kind of scratch my head at the end of the day. I mean, you went the Rudy Gobert deal. I'm like...
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. I mean, listen, when you bring someone like Danny Ainge to the fold, they're going to hit that reset button at some point. But, man, did you expect him? Like, look, he gave it... Danny got the Danny Ainge special, right? But he said, "Nah, man, keep the sides. Just double up on the main course. Give me those 4 draft picks. Keep the sides. double up. I want the 4-piece of Future First and call it a day. Like, that's interesting because, look, in 4 or 5 years, those picks could turn into centerpieces. And you're wondering, I mean, if you're the Utah Jazz, you're thinking it's a Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum sort of type of thing, right? Into the future. And I think that's why they brought Danny Ainge into the picture from the beginning, you know?
Well, Danny has decided to make moves. He didn't see Rudy Gobert leading them to a championship. He saw Rudy Gobert being a deterrent, had a big contract, and you're moving them to Minnesota. So you're saying Minnesota had a hard time guarding already. You bring Rudy Gobert in, who's a pretty good defender, but late in basketball games, Rudy Gobert and Towns on the floor at the same time guarding who? I mean, the game now is a game that's played outside the lane. And rim protector, how you need a rim protector? The Celtics didn't need a rim protector at the end of the day. They needed someone on the perimeter against Golden State. So, I mean, some of these deals, again, I just kind of scratch my head and look at some of these trades. But Danny was given that the keys and saying, Danny, do what you want to do. Make this team a contender. And Danny decided, look, when he had Paul Pierce, I'm building around Paul. This is everything he said.
But what's the first thing he did too? He traded away Antoine. He said, I don't think this is not a centerpiece here. Yeah.
I'm building around Donovan Mitchell. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to trade all his friends, people who like him, whatever it is, and this is where I'm starting. I'm going down to the studs, just like with Paul Pierce, and I'm going to build again. And now I have time to do that because Donovan Mitchell's under contract, a long-term contract. And arguably he's one of the better players in the NBA. But the Utah's going to have to be very, very patient this year.
What do you think of this report out of Yahoo Sports? Vincent Goodwill, who says that the Brooklyn Nets asked the Minnesota Timberwolves for Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and 4 draft picks in return for Kevin Durant. And the Timberwolves declined. Would you do something like that? I don't think you have enough left over after that, right?
That's it. At the end of the day,
you don't have the core.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have nothing in the cover. You know, you have nothing at all.
They just beat Durant and Gobert out there.
Yeah, you don't have anything left. I mean, it was essentially he'd be like going back to Brooklyn, playing with Brooklyn by himself for an entire year. But this whole scenario about, I'm so interested to see if Kyrie Irving lands anyplace else. Does he stay in Brooklyn? They would get Durant out. People have said also another destination could be Toronto. Toronto.
Yeah.
Pascal.
If I'm the Raptors, man, I would really do my best to put together the best package offer that they can do, man. That could really get them into the fold in terms of being one of the competitive teams. But look, they got the pieces. They have the ancillary pieces that could help, to put the trade together. But it's just the centerpiece. I don't know. Is Pascal Siakam? Is that enough to get something done?
But that's why you need another Kawhi Leonard, and that's what they'd be looking at. If Durant came in, he'd be that Kawhi Leonard piece again and build around him.
And it worked once.
Yeah, I could see them possibly making that deal, and the assets that Toronto would have. Maybe that would entice Brooklyn to make a move.
But no question. You got OG Alanui, you got Precious, couple pieces in.
But Brooklyn is holding all the cards though, because Durant's still under contract.
No.
What's he gonna do? Sit out?
No.
I mean, he has a 3 years left or 3 or 4 years left on his deal.
But see, that's what I think is going to happen with someone like Kyrie. I think that's someone that could, if he's not traded before the start of the season, he'll be traded a couple of months into it because of his expiring contract. Because teams at that point will be like, man, we're one piece away from a championship run or getting really far in the NBA playoffs. That's going to eventually happen because that's what happens in the NBA, Max. Right? Like players they eventually get their wish. They might hold out for a long time and months, but eventually they get what they want.
But
this is what happens.
Certain teams on the radar. He had the Knicks on the radar. Brooklyn's not going to trade him to the Knicks. I mean,
well, what about Miami? I'm not Kyrie, excuse me, Durant. At least it was reported that he had Miami on his list, but he wants to play with Lowry. He wants to play with Bam, and he wants to play with Jimmy Butler. I'm like, well, what's Brooklyn going to take in return? Max Struss? Like, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
You know?
So you're right in the fact that the market right now for everybody is somewhat limited, but once that log jam breaks, it's going to break. And I was talking to somebody in the Celtic front office, and we started talking about salaries, and he said, "Well, the TV deal is coming up. The NBA just signed a 20% increase on their TV deal, so that money has to go. Part of it has to go to the players." So you're looking at salaries might even go up even more at the end of the day. People were worried, but I think that the owners are going to try to get a little bit more handle on guys sitting out, guys doing what Kyrie did, guys like Ben Simmons, what he did. The owners are going to try to put some kind of rule in there that is going to penalize those guys if they sit out those games.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they do that, because it's been the conversation I feel like for the last couple of years, right? Ever since the main stars of a particular team that they're playing on a marquee matchup on ESPN, and people can't tune into watching their favorite guys, and the dreadful schedule and the back to backs and all of that.
So what are you going to do though? What are you going to do about players?
That's the thing, because I don't think it's fair to take away
a day or two. It's like, okay, I can't play in this game because of you understand the injury, but Greg Popovich was the one that started that by telling his players, like, look, I'm going to sit.
And I don't care if it's a marquee matchup, right?
Yeah, and that was his marquee matchup at that time was San Antonio versus Miami. And he said, nah, I'm resting my... Matter of fact, I'm sending Tim Duncan, I'm sending Manu, I'm sending all those guys back to San Antonio.
Tony Parker, all of them. And
that has not changed. And we'll see if... because as a player, for me, that's what I look forward to. Look forward to those marquee matchups. I wouldn't be surprised on Christmas Day if we're not in San Francisco playing against because of the matchup of two guys who are in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I take that bet for sure. Yeah, I think they're gonna try. I mean, with everything that Draymond's been saying too, like, man, this could be a newfound rivalry, especially if the Celtics can get back to the finals. And if the Warriors are waiting for them, man, sign me up. I want that rematch. On paper, right now, I like the Celtics' chances.
Well, what the hell is going on with the Lakers, though?
Oh man, that's a mess right now. I mean, Darvin Ham, the new head coach, he's all smiles and everything's positive, but he's wondering what that roster is going to look like in a couple of months. You have to wonder. It can't look like this.
Because it has to. I'm just waiting for the news for blockbuster deal of all of a sudden you have moved on beyond Westbrook. If you're the Lakers, would you buy him out? Would you take a buy? If you're him, do you take a buyout of $40 million, become a free agent, and go someplace else?
I don't think he's leaving that money on the table.
That would open the door for a Kyrie Irving if that was the case. But boy, you swallowed a huge pill at $47 million because at that particular time last year, he was going to be the second highest paid player in the NBA.
I think my guess is that they eventually strike a deal with Brooklyn. Like that's, I don't know how that would work out, but they would have to do something and meet somewhere in the middle. And I think if I had to guess, the stalemate right now between these two teams is the other pieces, right? Because if you're the Lakers, you don't just want Kyrie. You want a couple other. You want a Seth Curry. You want maybe to address the second unit in a way in this trade. Like, but at the same time, the money, the way it matches up with someone like Russell Westbrook, it's complicated.
What is Brooklyn getting though? What would Brooklyn get out of that?
Yeah,
Westbrook expiring contract.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tucker Horton, a young guy like Tucker Horton, 22-year-old,
if you're
something like that.
Tucker Horton doesn't change the dial for me. If you're looking at the Lakers right now, and they're talking about they don't want to give up their picks, and their picks about 4 or 5 years from now, and LeBron James in his 20th year, I tell you that is a crazy, crazy situation for the Lakers.
No question, definitely. All right, Max, before we get out of here, man, I want to ask you about this. I mean, we talked about it earlier, about Jaylen Brown and, the offseason that's kicked off. I love the fact that he's working out with Tracy McGrady. Some pictures came out of them too, back in the gym. Like, that's the kind of attitude I'd love to see from someone like Jalen. Not in the Suns taking pics with Draymond Green. No, I'm just kidding. But, Celtics Nation, though, the fans have been calling this whole Kevin Durant situation involving the Celtics as disrespect towards Jaylen Brown. How do you feel about that? Because in my opinion, I don't know if disrespect is the right word, but if anything, to say that you are valuable enough to be a centerpiece for someone, for arguably the greatest scorer of all time, that's a compliment more than anything, right?
It is.
Do you take that personal if you're Jalen, if that's you?
No, you don't. If you're Jalen, you look at it and going, wow, my name's involved with this kind of player. If they want to make this move. And I remember years ago talking about Anthony Davis, and the Celtics had an opportunity maybe to try to get him from New Orleans. They only had 1 year deal, and you'd have to give up Tatum. And I remember talking to Tatum. I was on TV. They asked me, will I make that deal? I said, yes, I'd make that deal. And I remember Tatum's dad coming over to me, his stepdad coming saying, hey, I got a problem with what you said about my son. And I was like, what's that?
Yeah?
He said, trading him to New Orleans. And I said, for Anthony Davis? And he looked at me and said, I would make that deal too. And then I asked Tatum about it later on. And Tatum said, I would have made that deal too if I got Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis. So I think that you cannot, that what you have to do, you have to look at this as business. And what Jaylen Brown has done to me is demonstrated, look, back to work. I'm not on the Hamptons taking pictures. I'm back to work. I'm in the gym. I'm going to get better. I'm going to be at that elite level. And he was. He had a great year.
Yeah, especially in the finals.
He had an all-star year. So for him to be back in the gym working, that to me is the biggest. That's the biggest compliment and the biggest tool that he can give to his team during the offseason. To like, look, man, no playing, no timeout, no taking pictures at the Hamptons. I'm just here. I'm here to get better, and I'm going to lead this team towards the championship.
Yeah, no question. Use it as fuel. That's exactly what you need to do. All this trade talks and all this, back and forth between Celtics fans, whether you would do it or not, trade someone like Kevin Durant, keep working and use that as motivation. I love that about Jalen. And I think that's one of the silver linings that Celtics fans should take away from the NBA Finals was his performance and how he can, that could carry over and how he can build on that and continue to become a better player, man. I think that Jalen could really I shouldn't say turn things around because not like he had a bad year, but take things to another level next season for sure. I think all this is relevant. I mean, look, everyone's making a lot of noise about this because a couple of tweets out there that were talking about Jalen being disrespected because people want to put him in a trade, and he liked it. He liked one of the comments, and that's the whole thing. Oh, Jaylen Brown liked this tweet. He must agree with it. He must feel disrespected. And look at you guys. You're gonna scare away your second All-Star, and you guys don't appreciate things as Celtics fans. It's like, well, no, listen, this is part of what happens, right? When you reach the stage, you get into trade talks for elite players like Kevin Durant, and you just have to deal with that.
Yeah, this is business, and that's all it boils down to.
Right.
Brad Stevens has done his business, and maybe Brad Stevens is now taking that leap where he's taking his name out of coaching, because I just can't see Brad going back. He's making that kind of money. He's in the background.
Yeah. He's good at it.
He looks relaxed. He's done a great job of making some moves for this team, and that's why I would find that as young as Brad is, I think I'd still be hard-pressed for him to leave the Celtics and go out and get another job. If he did, I would have said he would have left the Celtics and went with Danny Ainge and went out to Utah. But he didn't, so maybe we can put a squash right now on who he is and what he wants to do.
I think there's still a chance that he returns to coaching, but I don't think it's anytime soon. When he first took the job, people were like, "Oh, this is
going to college.
It's going to be short term." No, not going to college. I don't think he'd go back to college.
No, I think look in my conversation with him. I
think he could return to coaching at some point, but I don't think it's going to be NCAA. He likes the challenge of the NBA. He likes that challenge, I think.
No, and talking to Brad, the thing that I got from him, we were talking about this new pay to play in college. And he looks at it like, oh, my God, that's Pandora's box. And I don't think he can get into that because now
change everything.
You're looking at players who are making more money right now than coaches. And what kind of power do you have over these guys? So I just can't see Brad Stevens going back into that situation.
Yeah, same. Especially because, again, he's good at this job. I think his background, his collegiate background, obviously helps him in terms of drafting players. I think he's been through the Danny Ainge one-on-one in terms of like how to facilitate deals and all that stuff. I think all of it's relative. I think Danny probably did a good job in walking him through that type of stuff, right? Like the facilitating that transition from him going to head coach to GM or to president of Celtics organization. Yeah.
Well, as we say all the time, what we doing right now? We keeping it on the what?
We keep it on 100, man.
100. We keeping it on 100, and mash that subscribe button, that like button,
yes,
whatever.
Sir.
You make us stronger, but whatever one do, and
shout out to a few people gave us some reviews on iTunes and giving us the subscribing and leaving rating our podcast. Giving us 5 stars and leaving comments and all of that's appreciated, man. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
No doubt. And Josue, have to give him the shout out as, reporter of the year so far with some of his gets during the playoffs that had, made everybody some money, he caught some things that were sparking right in. You were right there.
I'm adding some storylines, Max. What's the NBA Finals with some extra storylines outside?
There you go. And it worked out well. But guys, anyway, thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon. And if there's any other news that breaks right now, we'll probably have a podcast in about a week and going over some of the new things that happen in the NBA. But again, thank you for the ride and the journey with us so far this season.